Alright, so this is going to be a video about my Remington Model 700 that has had some work done to it, and fixing some extraction, ejector extraction issues. A little bit about the gun. It's a left-handed, because I'm left-handed, Remington 700 in a 300 Remington Ultra Mag, because I ain't no punk biatch. In fact, it actually killed that bear right there. It is a bear and elk killing machine. If you've never shot 300 Remington Ultra Mag or seen one hit an animal, you need to, and you will convert, because me and several members of my family use these. We're upwards of 30 some odd animals, and literally every animal that a 300 Ultra has hit has gone down and never taken another step. So enough about 300 RUM. So this has an action that's been blueprinted. So this is an action that has been blueprinted by a gunsmith, which is kind of a funny way of saying it's basically gone over by him. He refaced the bolt there, made it more concentric than factory, rebuilt the bolt, removed that stupid little keyway thing that locks the bolt, so it's just a smooth bolt face. Put some premium spring. The spring kit in there is pretty premium. The lugs have been recut, and then the chamber was recut and resized, and put a throat in it closer to a custom gun. Other than that, it's a factory bolt, factory action. It's even the factory trigger that's been worked down to 2 pounds, and the factory barrels. So the stock is aftermarket. It's obviously a fiberglass, carbon fiber mixture. I'm really blanking on the company right now, but it works good. I like it. I like the vertical pistol grip. I like the limb saver pad and whatnot. So on to the extraction issues. So here's some Remington. This is Remington Core-Lock factory ammo. It's got some 180 grain junk bullets. And then this is my load here, shooting 200 grain AccuBonds. You can see the difference there in height. Pretty significant. That's about 10 thousandths off the lands with my gun. So part of that was to fit that size in there. You know, Remington does not, or at least did not, I don't know if they still don't, but they didn't have a Magnum action, which is what a 300 Ultra realistically should be. They're cramming a Magnum length caliber down into a regular 30-06 length long action. So, I mean, you can even tell, you just put the bullet up there. It flat out will not extract that with a bullet in there. And then you put my load up in there. That straight up will not eject with an unspent round. It just won't. Basically what it does is the bullet scrapes along here and then gets to the point where it reaches the back and it just flips out of the extractor. That's a problem that I'm just willing to deal with, because I'm rarely extracting an unspent round, and in a significant situation, that's more like spending it when you're trying to get back into the truck or something. But if you take a spent round, obviously it's got the ability to eject that. Now, okay, so now Remington's stock extractor on this thing is a pathetic joke. It's literally like this tiny little blade right there, machined into the lip surface that you can easily just rip off and strip out the edge of the bullet, strip off the little rim, or wear that thing down and it doesn't eject. Honestly, it's a significant flaw. Sometimes you wonder why Remington 700s became so popular. So this is another thing that was done to this bolt. This is a sako style extractor. These add-on extractors are very common for Remington 700s. Sako style, or same brand as Tikka. Those extractors are pretty common because they're low profile. A lot of people put M16 ones in here. They're a little longer, so you got to cut deeper into the bolt down to about there. Problem is, if you look at that, as far as, this is staring down the barrel towards the bolt. when you kick that open, your lugs are flat like that. But what it does is it ends up ejecting at, what is that, 1:30, 2 o'clock? So it ejects it up. Whereas a lot of guns like to eject sideways. They put a plunger like that. I mean, this is a left-handed gun, so it would be reverse if you're right-handed. They put a plunger down there. This one's at 7, 8 o'clock. Right-handed would be more like 4 o'clock. And then they put the extractor more like 3 o'clock in this case, as opposed to 1 or 2 o'clock. So it grabs it and wants to fling it sideways, and the only thing that flings it up just a little bit is that plunger. That's pretty much how most bolt guns are done. When you put the bolt back in there, you can see the angle. Well, here's my issue. That extractor and plunger are flipping that thing right up into my admittedly oversized turret on this SIG Tango 4. So this handles your parallax adjustment plus the light, which I essentially never use for a lighted reticle. So what was happening was a lot of times this thing just would fail to eject because this thing, as it got back and started flipping out, would flip it straight up like this, and it would come up and contact the turret right there, and then it would just fall back down. So then I would have to tip the gun over, get this to drop out, and then jack in a new one. Obviously not what I wanted. So I did some research, and I saw a lot of people who the solution is to oh so subtly trim off one edge of that extractor. Okay, so pull the bolt back out, and I hope that this focus is right. But if you can tell, that extractor I took out of there and filed ever so subtly down that upper corner. Not enough to compromise its ability to grab the rim and rip out the brass, but enough to, when it actually wants to flip out, so that it wants to come out of the higher part first, which starts to guide it further sideways. So before, it would flip up and hit that almost every time and flop back down. It still flips up and hits that thing. However, it comes out at a lower angle to the point where it seems like 99 times out of 100 right now, it ejects the spent round without it falling back down into the chamber. All right, so here's a demonstration on how it ejects now. It ejects. I mean, I'll feed this in. Obviously, there's no bullet in there, so I got to be a little gentle to make sure that it actually gets up into the chamber right. But you get it in. Okay, so it's closed. So now, even if I go slow and eject it, it flips out. You'll see it still hit that, but by the time it hits it, it's more like hitting here instead of hitting here, and it flips out and falls down. We'll try that again. All right, demonstration number 2. We'll do a little faster. We'll try it again. I'll guide that thing in there. So, one solution out there that people do for these things is, instead of having one plunger, there's 2 plungers. My gunsmith really didn't want to do that on mine because you're supposed to cut the holes pre-hardening, and he worried that if I drilled that post-hardening that it would compromise this bolt. You can go out and spend a lot of money for a Pacific tool and gauge or some sort of other bolt like that already comes with 2 plungers, and what they do is they put a plunger right up there too, so it's pushing it more that way instead of up. I mean, that's another solution. It's just not one that I wanted to do. I wanted to try and mess with the extractor. So I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Someone probably say, well, get that god-awfully huge scope off of there and get one with a smaller, smaller turret. Honestly, I didn't want to do that. I really like this scope. I know it's a big-bodied 30mm with a huge side turret like that. In fact, this is a common issue for everything that's right-handed in any sort of tactical scope, because you got the big turret on the right-hand side. Anyways, so this is an issue that's not often encountered by lefties, but if you put a scope on like this, it is. People also say, oh, you can just put higher rings on it and move the scope up. Well, I don't want to do that, because I don't want to put on some sort of cheek riser, because this is already about as high as I can stand, because I like to smash my cheek on it. I wanted to try and make sure that it worked with my setup. And I like this scope because it's got the reticle that I like, it's got a turret setup that I like, and it has a weight that I appreciate, because I wanted to increase the weight of this gun, because it is 300 RUM without a break. And when it was an 8-pound gun, it wanted to punch you in the face. But now that it's a 10-pound gun, it's pretty nice to shoot. So, there you go.